Well, welcome to our evening of information. My name is George Sleeman. I'm Vice Chair of the Bennington School District. Ken Swear, the chairman, is unable to make it this evening. Jackie Prue and Donna Cawley, one of our principals, is also unable to make it. But we will go ahead and start the evening, and I will have each board member introduce themselves, and then we'll move on and get this process going. Paul.
Paul Becker.
Ray Deacon.
Kelly Kennedy.
George Sleeman.
Claude DeLucia.
Superintendent of Schools, Catherine McClure.
Rick Tumber.
All of us will be here again on the evening of May 20th at 6:30 for the hearing before the vote on Tuesday, May 21. And ballots are also available at the present time from the town clerk's office. This informational session is offered to provide you detail on the revised proposal of the FY14 Bennington School District budget. We will give a brief presentation, and then we'll open up the meeting to any and all questions that will be asked. I'd like to, at this time, introduce Superintendent Mcclure.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sleeman. I would like to begin this evening by thanking all of the board members for their hard work, compliment them, and compliment the building administrators and supervisory union staff for their detailed work on this revision. The budget before you to vote on Tuesday, May 21st, retains support for instructional programs, provides additional support for students with complex special needs, and responds to reductions in federal funding. As Jackie Prue noted in her letter to the editor, which was published in the Bennington Banner this morning, every line has been examined for additional reductions. And since March, we've received more exact information to budget, more exactly, for example, health insurance costs. And every reduction has been taken, bringing the budget down from the original 19% increase to 13.91. Before we move on to further information about the instructional programs, I'd like to turn this program over to Chief Financial Officer Rick Pembroke to give us some detail about the financial aspects and impact of the proposed budget, and then we'll move on, George, to some comments on instructional programs.
All right.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm going to give you a brief overview, pictorial overview of some of the financial position of the budget and what the impacts are. My goal is, I think we have handouts available for those in the audience.
I think everyone has them.
And if it's not already, for those in homeland, if it's not already on our website, I'm assuming it'll be posted on our website shortly, tomorrow or some point in the day tomorrow. I ran out of time and manpower, so I wasn't able to produce all the slides that are in the handouts, but I can speak to them, and we will have them posted on the web, and we'll have them available for our meeting next Monday or so. I'm going to go through these rather quick. My suggestion is we hold questions. I can always bring them back up, so make a note of the slide if you want to ask a question about it. I can pop it back up, or if you have a question of the slide in the handout. I can speak to that as well as others in the audience can speak to it. The first thing I wanted to show was the total spending plan for BSD. Very quick snapshot view. 5% of the cost is for SDSU administration. 15.25% is for building administration and building operations, i.e. the principal's office, heating the building, lighting the building, the physical plant operations. 30.5% roughly is for special programming. That serves the special needs of our district. And then just under 50%, 49.28%, is a result of, is for regular programs. That includes the receipt of $1.7 million roughly of grant money that we received from multiple grants. That grant money has been spoken about quite a few times. This is just a little example of the loss of money that we have seen through the years. You can see FY11. This is ERA funds, largely that have come in here, FY11 and 12. What's largely pushing FY13 is Medicaid dollars that were allotted towards the preschool program, as well as education jobs money. I'm sorry, this is the education jobs money. So it's largely the preschool program and the Medicaid. We received a private grant from VCPC, Karen can help me what the acronym is, Vermont Community something. Preschool Collaborative. And then there was a large allocation of Medicaid money that supported that as well. FY14, we're seeing a drastic drop-off at this point in time. You can see it's pretty much all the funds, Title I, or the titles as a total, is a significant drop. A minor drop in IDAB, not a lot. 21st century is roughly level funded. Medicaid is dropping, and then the preschool, based on what we know today, is dropping as well. So that's having a pressure on our budget, and I think someone is going to speak to at some point what some of those budget restrictions we brought into this budget, which is causing some things to rise, and some we've just eliminated. We haven't been able to fund. That has driven a budget, and what we're trying to make sure that people understand here is over 5 years, if you look back at these grant dollars, higher these grant dollars it was keeping our local budget down, it was keeping our local tax rate down. We can no longer do that because we don't have those grant dollars. And if you look over history, we actually dropped in 2011 when we had that large increase. Our budget actually dropped. It was pretty much level funded in 10. We dropped it in 11. Very slight increase in 12. A little more in 13. Now we're seeing a fairly large increase. If you look at the average, it's 4.3% growth over that 5-year period. And we've held it in check for as long as we can. That budget drives the education spending per pupil. A lot of people call this cost per pupil. You can see by these lines, the red line is the SDSU average. BSD is below that. BSD is going to be roughly $12,100. The SU average is roughly $12,700. And it's going to be below the anticipated state average of $13,600, roughly. So, Bennington is not spending exorbitantly per student. It is not even meeting the local average and the state average to educate their students. And I'm walking through these in an order because it flows into the education funding system, that pays your tax, that results in the payment of taxes. That's the way I think, that's what I do for a living. So that results in a tax rate. And again, we wanted to show the tax rate, slight increase in 10, it was little reduction in 11, slight in 12, little increase in 13, and a little more increase in 14. The reason why you're not seeing the drastic increase, I don't know if you can see that, But 13 to 14, those trend lines aren't the same, is because in 14, we're receiving 50% revenue for the increased special ed cost. So we don't have to pay taxes on those. And that's the thing that I need to get across. It's not just the expense side of the transaction that we need to be aware of. We need to be aware of the revenue side. And when we get that special ed reimbursement, roughly 50%, it keeps that tax rate down. And so if you see over time, our tax rate increase on average over the 5 years has been roughly 4.3%. So I don't have the graph that everybody liked about what a $100,000 house is paying, but it pays just under, it's in the handout.
It's on page 2.
It's just under $70. And the key to there is you need to understand that that's assuming you're earning more than, I forget what the state number is, $92,000 for to qualify for the premium. So if you're earning something less than that, it's going to be less than that increase. And I was just trying to work out, but I couldn't get it on the system, but I'll have it on the website. There's what the state calls a town meeting grid that shows that impact, that whatever the cost of the house is with your income, and you can calculate what your taxes will be, and I'll have that on the website the next day or two so people can see that. I think that's it. Did I miss anything, George?
I'm going to just move a little bit away from this, because I wanted to, while Rick is right here, if there's any questions at all pertaining to the financial end, and that's where the question should be, let's go right ahead and ask him while Rick is here, and then move it up from there.
Yeah, I got a question. Looking at that graph, back up to your fiscal 14 education spending, whatever that people are. Yeah. So the state of Vermont gives you what per, how many thousands of dollars per?
That they don't anymore. That's no longer part of the formula. That was the formula pre-Act 60. And then Act 68 corrected Act 60. What they do is they set what's called a baseline ed spending per equalized pupil, and it's purely a tax rate calculation form. It doesn't mean anything other than it's artificially set. For 3 or 4 years, I think it was 9, 10, and 11, don't quote me on that, it might have been 10, 11, and 12, they artificially kept it at $8,500. So they level funded that for 3 years. Next year, it's 9115, I believe, is the baseline number. And that's part of the tax rate calculation. We don't get that per student. That's just what they offer as a base to help us calculate the tax rate.
What do you get? Question was, what do you get per student from the state of Vermont?
There is no per student for the state of Vermont that we get. There's no dollar bet.
The taxes I pay, half of it goes to the state, half of it goes to the school district, period, right? And then, and some of the state money is distributed to counties, right? And towns for the education. The question is, what percentage, what do you get from, that taxes that they distributed throughout the state?
The education tax that you pay in your tax bill, 100% of that is state taxes. So theoretically, 100% of that goes into the state education tax fund, state education fund, as property taxes. They redistribute that out. Bennington is, well, they no longer use the term receiving towns. I forget what they use as a terminology. But for all practical purposes, Bennington's a receiving town to the tune of about 50%. So we pay in, roughly, I don't have that number with me, I'm having difficulty. We pay in roughly $8 million from a town. I'm sorry, we're paying roughly $4 million to the town, as a town, to the state of Vermont, and we get $8 million back. So we roughly get 50% of our needed budget back. But there is no price per head.
But you get double what you put in.
Correct.
So, 5 years ago, I don't know, maybe I'm the only guy that saw it coming 3 years ago, that you were going to be deducted in dollars from everywhere. From the state, everybody's having trouble.
You weren't the only one, but...
All right, so, that being said, you asked for what last year? 7%, 90%? What'd you get last year? Raise, increase from us, from the taxpayers.
It was, I think, about 7%. I think about it.
So now you're coming back again this year for another 7, right?
Well, from a pure expenditure standpoint, they're actually looking for 14.
Okay. So you're looking for another 14. When you get double the money back, so the question is going to be for me, what am I getting for my money? Okay. What am I getting? And if I'm spending double than what I put in, every one of my students should be going to 20. And I don't see that in the account. What I see is, I see a spin, and I know there's some individuals on the board that joined this year on special needs, and you're telling me that you guys, 30% of your budget is going to go to special needs. That's what you're telling me, right?
That's what I'm telling you.
Okay. Now, I know there are some individuals that decided to come up and school because of children. I don't know if anybody's done that today. I don't know if it's anybody sitting here today. Because the children were not being helped by the programs that you were supporting and giving them. So all that money you were giving was still not helping their children. So now you're telling me that you're going to spend more, so throw more money at it. And I'm expecting that I'm going to get the same results, which is no improvement or very little improvement. Because you haven't fixed the problem. Now, when you say you went through every line item, my question to the superintendent is, you went through every line item. Part of that line item is your salary. Did you go through that line item?
For my salary?
Correct.
That salary is set at
I asked you a question. I didn't care what it said. Did you go through your line item, look at your salaries?
Actually,
Every superintendent.
Actually, sir, I have been very responsive about my salary. In fact, voluntarily took a freeze for 3 years. So, yes, I did. And that salary is set by the SU board and is set by them. So,
Well, we appreciate you.
thank you. And I think that what I would like to respond to is the special needs increases, if I might, in this budget, and the reason that we are in that 30% percentage of budget for those students with special needs. We are responsible for educating all of our students, and we take it very seriously and care very much about their success. A lot of individuals have come to ask questions at previous meetings around the supervisory union about those funds for special needs students, not understanding that these are funds that assist these students in accessing regular instruction, regular classroom instruction, by modifications or accommodations that are given to them, additional resources such as assistive technology, it might be a paraprofessional assistance. It helps them access with their typical peers as best we can for all of those children, regular education, as well as giving them the support for increasing their own skill level, their own performance level. The reason that you're seeing an increase in this budget is similar to all over this state and the nation. We are seeing an increase in students with complex special needs, particularly in the autism area. So there's the autism spectrum, from very intensive students with autistic characteristics and profile to those that have very, very few of those characteristics and everything in between. And what we're learning is that this increase is new to many of us in adapting our instructional program for those students. And we need more training, we need additional staffing, and we're really looking at a model with feedback from parents, yes, to formulate a specialized team for those that are in the mainstream, a team of a special education teacher, that has significant experience with students with autism, an occupational therapist, an additional occupational therapist, and speech and language therapist. We need a team that can respond to those children in their environment every day. And the reason is that their profile changes oftentimes with the environment, oftentimes with their increasing growth, intellectual growth and physical growth, and it's a changing profile. So we really have to be nimble in responding to them.
So with the spectrum is pretty wide. They open up even more. So with that spectrum, how many of those individuals, those children with special needs, can be in the bell curve, which what I mean by the bell curve is the 68%, okay, can work with the 68% of regular students. Which ones really need special?
Well, they all need special education.
They don't all need special anything. They can work in the mainstream as any other child.
With support, and some without support. There are some without
Okay,
support.
so I guess my question is, which ones are at the further end of the spectrum where you will have to have individual care for those individuals, those children? Is there a percentage, like maybe 10%, 100% of the students are really in that lower end spectrum?
Well, we have a program for more intense needs that serves anywhere from 7 to 8 children, but that also program also accepts, as they have room, BSD sponsors that, also accepts children from other districts on a tuition basis. The total number, Karen, I don't know if you can help me with the total number of ASD students on the spectrum. I didn't bring it with me tonight, but...
You're up in a more 40 range in Bennington?
Okay, so 30% of my budget is going for 40.
No. The special needs, 30% is for all special needs students. So we have... in BSD, well, I'm trying to think, in the supervisory union, there are 619 students with special needs. Karen, do you have the figure for BSD? Jim?
Well, our costs, I believe, are something like 65 to 70% of the district costs, so I would think that there's a ratio there, so we would have approximately that percentage of those students.
We're roughly about 19% of our population within the BSD, within the supervisory union, has special needs. These range from learning disabled children who do not need as many supports as some other complex disabilities.
I would expect the majority of those children and youth isolated as special needs. Probably, I mean, let's face it, when I went to school, people said I had ADHD. Is that a special needs? Attention deficit disorder?
Can be, yes.
I managed pretty well in the mainstream, so, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of kids that have similar...
And we're required by the state to have students in the mainstream as much as possible.
Okay.
And we do.
I would prefer my child in the mainstream.
Absolutely.
Unless they needed it. Now, if they needed it, you're absolutely correct. I would expect them to be.
And we have all different percentages of students who spend a small amount of time out of the regular classroom and most of their time in the classroom, to those that are totally out of the classroom.
All right, so on the graph, you say that you're under, Mr. Pembroke, you're under, on this graph on the bottom, it says that Bennington School District is under the state.
Yep.
Right, whatever that $13,000.
Yep.
If we are under, then we must be saving a ton of money. If I'm looking at that graph, you say we're doing great. So
I didn't say-
why are you asking?
No, we didn't.
I didn't say that.
That's what it says. That's what it looks like.
No, that-
Looks like we're spending less than anybody.
Well, if you're looking at it from a
We're-
cost
We're
perspective.
spending less than most.
We're spending less than the average state, the average per state, so we're doing good, right?
From a spending standpoint, we're doing very good in relationship to the state of Vermont. And to our peers in the SU. We're below the SU average.
This board has always taken a very serious attention to the capacity of the taxpayer as well as trying to maintain the
You understand
programs.
what the tax rate is in this town?
I do. I live
You
here.
understand it's higher than, I used to live in Connecticut, and I gotta tell you right now, this is higher than Connecticut, okay?
We're not as high as Arlington.
All right?
We're not as high as Arlington.
Good point. That's higher than all the others, yeah.
We're under them.
But I tell you what, when I look at the Woodford school budget, and I see that they decreased their budget by a percentage,
They got one
saving
classroom.
their taxpayers' money, I look at this board and I say, why can't you do the same?
Well, Mr. Pembroke?
The answer to Woodford is 90% of their land is owned by the federal government, and they get significant impact aid that more than offsets any increases that they get in local education.
That's correct.
And again, they don't have a unionized teacher, that's saving some money.
They do not.
I'm not saving some money too, right?
I won't get into that in an open discussion.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I had. I understand what you're going, you still want another 7% on those. You know, you look at the assessment. 14%, sorry. Look at the assessment for a house for $200,000, another $139,000. You know, I picked up 300 last year, so we're on 139. It's basically what you're telling me. The excuse is that you have more children with special needs and you lost funding from the state and the feds, right?
I'm not making an excuse, I just state the facts.
It is true. I drive them.
Okay. I want you to know, I really appreciate your coming and your asking those questions. I wish we could get more people to take the interest that you take in that. I remember you from the last meeting that we had, might have been the Selectmen's meeting, or it may have been the Mount Anthony meeting. That's where I found you. Okay. Any more questions before I move along on the agenda? Any more questions from anyone here? Mike?
Well, I'd just like to say, I hear the gentleman's issues, but I think I'd like to see him and somebody else other than me going to the select board and saying, why aren't you improving the grand list of the town of Bennington? If you want to see your property, I don't know what you bought your house at when you moved in here from Connecticut, but if you want to see it go downhill, if we don't have a strong school system, nobody's business, nobody's residential, and nobody's going to want to come to start up a new business to a town that does not support its school system. And to isolate the special needs children, I think that's a little unfair in today's world. There's tons of mandates that when I was a kid 62 years ago, there wasn't on the school system. And some of these kids' early intervention helps them out greatly. So I'm not for putting the kids up at risk because of funding. I think as a town, we need to grow our grand list, bring in jobs, bring in, my pet peeve has been Johnson Controls. It's been vacant for 20 years. The owner wants to come to this town and bring business in. He's paying $7,000 a year now. If he could develop it like he did develop the Home Depot property and the Kmart property, we'd have probably another 250,000 on the grand list. So to beat up the school board, where I know most of them and they've worked very hard, I'm on the side of the school board on this one. Next year, I hope that they can try to rein in a better budget, and I don't mean better that they haven't tried this year, but until the town grows in its grand list, everybody who owns a business and everybody who owns a residential property is going to be risking the value of that property in the future if we don't start bringing in business, hiring a recruiter or whatever it needs for the town of Bennington, and concentrate on those issues. So I will ask everybody to go out and vote for this budget, and let's all work together to make the town a better place in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
George,
Catherine?
I have those figures now. We have 794 students in the BSD. 139 are students with special needs, 17.5%. So a little bit lower than our SU percentage.
Okay.
I appreciate the gentleman's remarks. I think building a grand list is probably the good answer, but at the end of the day, people leave it down.
I'd like to, at this particular point, oh, excuse me, yes, go ahead.
I just want to address the fact that the school board is not who is deciding Do I really have to?
To the mic.
But the school board is not the one deciding who is getting IEPs or on special education,
It's the state.
but I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
So I think that it's foolish to just assert that
Yeah.
because you've done better,
Yeah.
or somebody's done better a long time ago, that it's okay to neglect the children's needs today.
Okay.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you. I would like to, at this time in the agenda, I'd like to introduce our Assistant Superintendent, Donna Leap, and our Principal, Donna McKenzie, and another Principal, Jim Law, and to highlight some of the specific areas of support in this proposed budget. Donna?
Yeah. Do you want to, you can come up here if you'd like.
I can stand, too. Can I stand here? Is this all right with you, George?
Wherever you feel comfortable.
Okay, I'm very comfortable right here.
All right.
Good evening, everyone, and I appreciate a moment to just speak to some of the work that's being done in the district, and this gentleman wanted to know what some of his money is spent on, and I'm new to the district, but I do want to say that there is some really great work going on here, and your budget has really been slimmed down to still support that work, even though some of our initiatives will be put on hold for a little bit. I just want to say that Donna McKenzie sponsored an event today at her school where many of the principals and over 65 teachers were voluntarily in attendance to learn about multi-tiered systems of support, which means that we really are trying to integrate students of all needs into the classroom and to really monitor their success and offer intervention strategies for them to learn at their level. And I think this is a really good move that we're making toward the future of improving all of our performance in the district. It does include a systematic and comprehensive approach, some assistance and professional development in looking at how do we staff, how do we schedule all of the classes that we have so that each student gets the intervention and the services they need, how to look at effectively collaborating. This is really something that teachers need to be able to do together and need to have the time to do. So it's really important that we look at our staffing levels and support a budget that really is going to fulfill that for each and every school, which is a challenge, especially at the elementary level. But we need to be conscious of giving teachers time to have professional development and to collaborate together. Then we really are looking at high-quality instruction. What are the research-based models that will be most effective for students? It means really digging in and finding out what do we have, what are we working on, and how can we do that with fidelity to make it even better. Again, that takes the leadership of our principals in guiding all of our teams to look at student data and make sure that the instruction that we're giving is effective and meaningful for every student. And then also looking at a balanced and comprehensive assessment system, which again needs to be valid and reliable and offering a really good assessment of what each child knows and how can we instruct them to their fullest abilities. So I think that with all of the expertise that we have in the district, I really appreciate your support for this budget because we have worked very hard to maintain the services and to maintain the class levels that will make all of these things possible. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Good evening. I'm Donna McKenzie King, principal at Molly Stark, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of things in our budget that we're really asking our public to support. Our arts are extremely important in Bennington. We offer music, we offer chorus, we offer instrumental music. We have librarians in each of our schools. We offer physical education, and these are extremely important for all of our students for a number of reasons. Research is showing for our physical education piece, research is showing that our brains develop with more exercise. Lots of our classrooms today are taking little yoga breaks, exercise breaks, get the brain moving, the body moving, and we certainly don't want to see our physical education fall behind and have students not able to access that twice a week. I think the other piece with arts, with our music and our art department, many of our students shine in this area. They perhaps might struggle academically. They may even do excellent in the academics, but sometimes the arts is where a student really finds their niche. The elementary level, it's extremely important for children to experience all different aspects of education, and we include the arts in that education because for the future they may be able to say, this is something I'm really good at, pursuing something at the elementary, middle school, high school level, and possibly even in their college careers. So we truly are appreciative that the school board has not cut the arts department. We're asking for the public to support that. Another piece that we're asking the public to support is our homeschool liaison. This is something that Bennington Elementary and Molly Stark have had for several years. We've seen an increase in student attendance. We're finding students are not tardy as much, not absent as much, and of course, kids will learn when they're in school. So these are just a couple of things that we're asking the public to support. We appreciate your positive vote on May 21st for the good of our community and for the good of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna. Jim?
My name is Jim Law. I'm principal at Bennington Elementary, and I do appreciate the opportunity to at least say a few words about the budget and what it will mean for students at Ben El and the rest of the Bennington Elementary schools. As we talked about the budget, there were a lot of things that we reviewed, we weighed, we balanced, we argued to some degree of whether we should maintain or not maintain, whether it was a need or not a need. So there really was a serious discussion and sometimes debated conversation about whether a need was a need or not. And that's good, because that was a true review of what the students need and what the board is willing to support. One of the things this budget will allow us to do is to maintain class sizes at what we feel and educationally has been shown to be, a more appropriate size. We will be able to maintain classes similar, barring any unforeseen expectation of high move-ins and that type of thing, at a level that's good educationally for students. Not overcrowded, not undercrowded. And by undercrowded, I mean there are sometimes classes that are too small that students can't relate with each other. We're not looking for that by any means, but we are looking for something that will allow a good exchange with students, good interactions, good social skill building, good academic skill building, and not classes that are so huge that we really can't affect individual students. Part of that is because we have a need for some differentiating of instruction. And Donna Leap mentioned professional development. We've been working on some differentiation in the past few years. That allows us to have classes that may be a little bit larger than some places would like, but still meet the needs of individuals, because teachers are trained in how to make adaptations, make program adjustments to individual needs of students. That also does allow us to some degree, preempt some special education costs, because we're allowed to address those needs within a classroom and avoid what becomes somewhat expensive in some situations when students get referred to special education. Because as the gentleman pointed over here, special education is a rising cost. There are more complex needs today, but not all students need it. Some students need some simple modifications or adjustments in their assignments and in their works. And this budget will allow us to be able to address those needs in a reasonable manner. It does address some larger needs in special education, which we really do need to go forward with, and we appreciate the board's support there. It also allows us to look at data, look at focused, targeted instruction and adjustments within the classrooms and within the schools so that we can specifically look at what individual skills, individual students we need to help. Because that's what really makes the difference, the individual student and how Johnny, Billy, Susie, Carol, whomever they are, they go to school, they're there to learn, we want them to learn, that's why you send them to us. It'll help us to meet those needs, to help those students learn, to help them progress, and meet the standards that the district has set, the state has set, the federal government has set, and that's kind of where we want to go and where we need to go. This budget also includes some funding for a program, for example, called Girls on the Run, which is an opportunity for girls in schools who have often been left behind. I mean, I can't speak from a personal standpoint because I'm certainly not a girl, but I know that academically and culturally we have often not been as attentive to women's needs as we should have been. This allows a lot of esteem building, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of physical fitness, and that is a good thing. Title IX is a federal law from like way back when that kind of prompted a lot of this stuff. But Girls on the Run works great, and it is also positive in the sense of helping girls to become more of themselves, more who they are, what they are, where they set their goals, set their dreams, really grow so that they can be successful. It also allows some 4 Wins programming. 4 Wins is an environmental science program. Allows students to experience nature in a very organized, structured, fundamental way, and nature is right outside our door. Math and science is something that's been neglected for years in education. I can remember many years ago when I was teaching that science was something you got to if you had time and you didn't kind of have to spend the rest on reading and literacy. That has an effect on education today, and we're trying to get back to something where students experience all of their academic areas in a more hands-on, more experiential way. 4 Wins allows kids to really enjoy actively that science experience. Donna McKenzie King mentioned homeschool liaisons. That's been important for us. This budget will allow us to maintain those people, but it will also allow Bennington Elementary and Molly Stark to have behavior intervention people who will indeed be able to address some of the significant needs we have within the building without bringing in outside consultants or outside experiences, not outside experiences, but outside monies, which are often way more expensive than local monies. So we can do things better locally if we have the funding to address that. And I would like to thank the board for their support of this budget and ask for the community's support of the budget. It will make a difference for kids, and we simply ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for the principals and Donna Leap. Also, I just wanted to comment on Girls on the Run and 4 Wins. These are programs that also are reflected in themes in our after-school and summer programming. We know from research that students that are involved in these programs are more likely to have higher levels of student achievement and have more interest in attending school and participating in school, and we've seen that from these programs, so we're pleased that we're able to move them out of federal grants into the local budget. We also have with us George, Karen Burnett.
Yeah, I was going to call on Karen. Karen, is there anything you'd like to say this evening?
We have wonderful support for our 4-year-old program, and Karen is exactly the person to describe it and the impact it has on instruction and fiscally as well.
Just did my little spiel. No, that's okay.
The intro.
That's okay. My name is Karen Burnell, and I'm the Director of Early Childhood for the SVSU, and part of my responsibility is also to assist with successful transition of children into kindergarten. I want to thank the board for your support for our public pre-K program. Bennington is, and the community, this year was our first year with public pre-K. Bennington is the third town within the supervisory union to provide public pre-K services. We are able to serve 104 four-year-olds this year, and that makes a big difference. You've heard a lot about research, and, research shows that providing opportunities for children when they're young really makes a difference. I know that we're all committed. Our community is committed, our board is committed, the administration is committed, the teachers are committed in really assuring that all children come to school ready to learn. And one of the ways for that to happen is for children to participate in high-quality early care and education opportunities. We want to narrow that achievement gap, and one of the ways to do that is to continue with our public pre-K programs. So I hope that the taxpayers will recognize the importance of that, and when you're voting at the voting booth, to please consider supporting the budget so that we can continue with all of the great public pre-K opportunities that we've been doing, as well as all of the other initiatives that you've heard discussed this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I also wanted to mention an item. At the last time we proposed a budget that got defeated, that there was an item in there for architect fees and a bond issue. And I wanted to mention that those items have been removed from this budget, that they are no longer in there, and that we were able to recoup a substantial amount of money back from the architect as well. And I wanted to, at this point, thank the fellow board members here for the work on the budget. Spent many hours, and the administrators, going over this budget line item for line item, and we're hoping for a positive bond vote, budget vote. So we'll look forward, and if there's any...
Not a bond.
Not a bond vote, but a budget vote. And we look forward to seeing you people at our next meeting, which is scheduled for May 20th.
That's right, at 6:30, George, right here at the Firehouse on River Street, and it is the evening before the vote. I didn't know if board members wanted to add comments.
Any board member wish to add anything?
Or
Any further questions from anyone?
make sure that the opportunity was there.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Thank you, everyone.
Boy, you know what's sad? Put your cell on.